everybody, it's Anthony Brogdon. My God, I got a smooth dude on the channel today. He won them PhDs. Let me tell you something. Lord. My man's so tight. He wrote the paper, and they told him we ain't got to read it. Come on over here.
Anthony, you too much.
Get your doctorate, man. Come on, man. This guy right here, he cold-blooded. I'm telling you, he's an expert. Let me tell you, we were just talking. He can't really hear me per se. We were just talking a second. He said, man, I got a lot of stuff I can talk about.
Oh, yes.
So I said, hey, let me tell you how we do it. You come on as often as you want.
Hey.
Because my mission is to inspire, to educate, and entertain. That's what I'm trying to do, everybody.
And love Black people.
Yep, and it's because of guests like this that make it where I'm a better person. And I know my viewers are better people because we have been taught some stories and within our history that have an inspiring antidote to them. Yeah. You can't stop us. So hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. It's free. It don't ask no information. It don't do nothing but let me know you like me and I like you already. Hit the notification, hit the like button on this video. You're gonna like this one a lot. Watch this. Hit the notifications bell for when you get notified for when I put a new video up. And I try to do 3-4 of them a week. I can't tell you when I'm going to do them. I don't want you to get used to that because a lot of times they hit my heart and now it's time to share something with you, my friends. Because like, did you see the one I did with the guy? He's another one of these PhD dudes. My man talked about there were Black people in the Communist Party.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yes,
and he explains what communism is and all that and a little bit of that history. Watch that video. Did you see the one I did? And let me tell you something. I got emotional on this one where I shed a tear on this lady out of Laurel, Mississippi. She like one of them Ida B. Wells type sisters. She was setting up one of them marches. Now, the sheriff called her the night before and said, we hear it's going to be trouble. She said, I ain't canceling. And when they got to City Hall, people had heard that they were there to tear down the Confederate statue. She said, I don't give a hoot about that statue. I don't look at the statue. I'm only here in love. And the white folks was up in the trees and they had their guns and rifles. It could have gotten very ugly. So one of the Black guys that was marching with her, he got his gun too, just in case. He took it and laid it on the ground in front of the white guy and said, I'm here in love. And the white guy, I'm a Christian. All right, man, shake my hand. And then she took it and now she's got a museum down there. Watch that video. Did you see the one? And this one here is deep. I got a guy on this channel. They had his great-grandfather at the tree with a rope around his neck because the white guy come to the house. The wife ain't got the insurance premium, which, might have been 20 cents, whatever it was. She said, I ain't got it. The white guy smack her. She smack him back. The white guy come back later in the night, a couple hours later with a buddy. They rape her in her house. The husband come home, he filming. I'm looking for this dude, but he know it ain't gonna be good. This is Troy, Alabama in the 50s. So they come in, they rape the wife. He comes home. Things go where it go. He can't find the guy. The KKK come back to the house in the middle of the night, kick in the door, beat him, strip him naked, and got him at the tree. And the only thing that saved him was he's in that one of the Masonic orders. There's a Masonic distress signal. He did that. The white guy under the robe let him go. He said, but if they catch you, ain't nothing I can do. It's that kind of thing that I try to present and more. I got a guy on there from Hawaii. He said, let me tell you about them when black people ruled the world in them ancient Egyptian civilizations. Watch that video. And he ain't the only one from Hawaii. I got another guy, he on the NAACP chapter in Hawaii. I said, man, hey, what y'all fighting for? Y'all down here, and you might call paradise. No, man, this ain't all completely paradise. Them white folks still act up, even here. Watch that video. And so we over 400 strong. And in November is our 2-year anniversary. I'm trying to do something special for y'all. We've been at it 2 years in November. And we rocking. With this guy I got on the channel, we rocking. Playing with y'all. Lord. So do a couple more things for me. And I know it's doing it because my numbers is up. It's a movie I've done 3 years out of my life. It's called Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America. And let me tell you something. I don't know what happened to me. I was a decent student going up in grade school. And, we had Black history classes and teachers taught. But they did not tell me that there were slaves who owned businesses and then used the money to buy their freedom. All I knew was the beat down. And this is what I talk about in my film. It's streaming on Amazon. And more than that, I got some people whose family owned a business. The earliest I found was in 1917, a cemetery. I interviewed them in my movie. And then I took it one step further as I wrote this book. This book is good. It's gooder than good. Not just because I wrote it, but I've had other people tell me that. And I'm so confident that you will learn something new after reading my book that I will give you your money back if you don't. With a money back guarantee. Boom, shaka-laka. I'm that confident. Get you a copy of this and check this out. I got a campaign. See, because my thing is, we all need money and stuff like that, but I ain't gonna lie to you. I want people to hear this so bad that every 10th book I sell, I donate one to a school. And so far, I probably have donated about 400 books. Not bad. Great. I want to donate 10,000. Y'all do the math. And so, and it ain't expensive. And I ain't gonna lie to you, not like my guest today, he one of them smart cats like that. I'm not no big book reader. So if you can give it to me straight, no chaser, and just let me, get the fact and kind of move along, then I'm good. And that's what I do in my book. I don't add no commentary on these facts because then I got to interpret it. I don't want to do that. I want the fact to stand on its own merit. It's over 200 facts. And just because you be like, man, I ain't never hear that. I ain't gonna believe that. I never heard of that person. I give you the link in the reference section of where I found it. Check it out, my friends. And so check this out. Y'all know I use that term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I use it on everything. You add strong inspirations. And in my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to my guest today. He's a strong brother. Oh, man, come on, introduce yourself. Thank you for being on Strong Inspirations.
My brother. I ain't never been introduced like that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction and all that strong inspiration on this Sunday morning. Thank you for having me. Thank you for introducing me to your audience. I'm Dr. Carlos Hill. I teach at the University of Oklahoma in the Clara Luper Department of African and African American Studies. My career has revolved around teaching Black studies, but my work and witness revolve around trying to tell the stories of victims, survivors, and descendants of America's, 400-year assault on Black people and Black bodies. And so I tell those stories as a historian of Black studies.
All right. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to get into some of that because I like that. Hey, come on. That's good stuff there. But I do got to ask a couple of questions about you so that my guests know who you are. Where were you born and raised?
I am from Louisiana. Born and raised in Louisiana.
New Orleans?
I've lived in New Orleans, but my parents and I and my grandma, all my people are from the Louisiana Delta, which is probably a part of Louisiana you haven't heard of. Marouge, Louisiana, Bastrop, Louisiana, that part of northeast Louisiana that abuts up against the Mississippi River. That's what I call home.
Now, why do they call it the Delta? Is that more than one city? Is that a community? It's a region? What is the Delta?
It's a region. It's a region. So the Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas Delta is a region of, that part of the country that have large Black populations, right? Okay. This is the Black Belt of America. You have counties with upwards of 50 to 70% Black, right? And so the Delta is a place where you have very large Black communities, old Black communities, that are mostly descendant from enslaved people.
Sure.
And so I grew up in that region, and I grew up, in the remnants of the Jim Crow plantation South. My grandmother lived surrounded in a house surrounded by cotton gins and cotton mills, and so I grew up with the remnants of that plantation, that dying plantation economy. And that's in my bones, that's in my capillaries. And so that's what I end up studying as a professional historian. I end up studying the stories of my people who have been, who've been brutalized by white supremacists, especially lynching. And so my work is in many ways reflective of and mirrors back to myself and the world, my experience as a Black man growing up in Louisiana. Experiencing the remnants of the dying plantation economy that ensnares so many Black people.
All right, let me stay back on you growing up though. So did you live on the Black side of town?
The Black Belt, brother, Black Belt.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is there a white side of town where you live?
No, I mean you kind of erase what you think of how neighborhoods and such are built, right? This again is the plantation South. There are no neighborhoods. These are, and when my grandmother lived was a row of maybe 4 or 5 houses that used to be plantation homes. So this is not a neighborhood. So these were all Black people living in close proximity to each other because they worked cotton fields for a living.
Hold on. Let me ask you this. Now, how big is the house? You wasn't in the house where the plantation owner, were you in the house that the slaves lived in?
No, these are homes from the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, not from the Civil War era.
But then are these, is the ground that the homes were built on, were those at one point plantation houses?
The land could have been owned by a plantation owner. I'm not sure if it could have been, but where I grew up, I know that those were cotton plantations, modern cotton plantations that Black people worked on in the rural South, in rural Louisiana. And my grandmother, for a time, her family for a time, my family for a time, worked in cotton gins, the modern cotton economy, not picking cotton like you did in the 40s or before the 1950s and tractors. But after that, you worked in cotton gins. And so my family, my mom, my father, my grandmother certainly for a time worked in cotton gins. And so I grew up around the plantation South, the remnants of it anyway. And in many ways, my scholarship is about trying to understand the plantation South, both during slavery, after slavery, and the impact that racial violence, lynching, and all that had on the Black experience. That's what Dr. Hill's work is about.
Now, when you say so, like so the cotton gins are the major employer in your area. Is that one of the major
They were,
employers?
they
Okay.
were, they were.
What is it to work at a cotton gin, and what is that? Is it what does that building look like? Is it a warehouse? And in the
Mm,
back there's it's modernized. What kind of
yes,
work do
yeah,
they do in those? Maybe that's the question.
yeah. Well, you got to realize, Anthony, I'm not that old.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people tell me I look younger every day.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but I haven't worked in a cotton gin, and certainly not a modern cotton gin. But having familiarity with it, what you see is what would look like a big warehouse. And in the front of it, you will see, um, bales of cotton. And those bales of cotton will get sucked up a chute, right? So all the cotton has gotten picked from the field. They bring it to the cotton gin to be processed. In front of the cotton gin is all the cotton, and then there's a chute that all the cotton that has just been picked and organized and separated, it goes up a chute,
Okay.
and then it gets processed. And so the modern cotton gin is automated.
Yeah, I got you.
The Civil War, or the cotton economy that our people broke their backs to make, that was a hand by hand. You pick the cotton, you separate the cotton from the seed, right? And then you have to stack, or then you put it in bags, and then you stack it up for the plantation owner. All the processing went through enslaved people. The modern cotton gin, everything is automated, everything
Yeah,
is
sure, sure,
computerized,
sure.
right? And so that's the difference.
Is there is there a smell in the air of some sort because of cotton or
Yeah,
because of
there's
the
all you
gins?
see. Yeah, all you see is little cotton balls in the air and
Oh,
cotton
really?
seeds flying around during cotton season. And that's probably why I have such bad allergies, is I grew up
Oh,
with the
really?
smell of cotton flying all around. Um,
Oh, okay.
Particularly this time of year when it's being processed,
Now, what
right?
is that? What time of year is that?
Harvest time.
Which is what? August through
Well, now I mean it's the cotton. It's nearing full bloom. Right before it gets really cold, really cold, is reaching its full bloom, and so now is the time that they're going to begin to harvest, pull it out of the ground.
Okay.
And you're gonna in 2 months you'll have some t-shirts.
Well, now what about what happened before now? Like what was going on when you were growing up in the cotton area like that in October, not October, in February and March? The land was more barren and you could play on it easier, or what was that like?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really didn't. I mean, and again, like I, that's why I keep prefacing that the remnants of the dying plantation economy. By the time I was, 8 or 9 years old, my mom and dad were increasingly not working at the cotton gin anymore. They were just doing different work, because the pay was increasingly worse, because it was becoming more and more automated. And so my memories of the cotton gin and my revolve around my parents working there, not so much playing in the cotton fields, or because I wasn't nostalgic about it in any way. It was just, it was the backyard, or it was across
Okay,
the street from me. It wasn't.
okay.
We certainly didn't run in the cotton fields, because there were all kind of little vermin and things in
Oh,
there,
really?
snakes and
Okay,
everything. You don't want to just be running off in there.
okay.
'Cause there's stuff in there.
Did you go to an all black high school and that kind of thing, or were there some white kids at the high school?
Majority black. I started at Bastrop High School, in Bastrop, Louisiana, which is the biggest town in that area. So there was Mer Rouge, where my grandmother lived, and where I spent most of my time. But and certainly when I was older, I spent most of my time. But For high school, I went to a town probably 20 miles away where my parents lived, which was Bastrop, Louisiana. And Bastrop is a mill town, so a big mill town. It's where it's a paper mill town. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
And so everyone that I know at some point in time worked at the paper mill.
Okay.
But I went to Bastrop High School in Bastrop, Louisiana, and it was a town of about 20,000 people.
Okay.
Mostly supported by the paper mill.
Okay. Let me ask you this: do you know where the plantation is in your family?
That's a hard history. Part of my journey is I haven't yet had the courage to really dig deep into my family's connections with slavery, like my particular linkages to slavery. I have not given that time and space, but that's something that I know I need to do and that I will do.
Okay.
It just hasn't been the season for it yet.
What
I will.
What did your grandfather do?
So you have to understand, everyone that I am connected with is some way connected to this plantation economy, because this is rural Louisiana. The only jobs available for Black folk for my grandmother's generation was being domestics. And if they were really, really fortunate, teachers. But there were no opportunities. You had to make the best of what was a racist, oppressive system. And so my grandmother was a domestic worker, worked in white people. She would say, I work in white people's homes for her whole life. She cleaned what she would say white people's churches her whole life.
Wow.
All she knew was hard work. And the day that she died, right, she was still working, because that's what her generation knew, right? There was no retirement. There was no nest egg. There was just work. And she was strengthened by that. Certainly, she wasn't weakened by that. She was strengthened by it. But that was her reality. There was no going off to college and becoming, somebody in the white man's world. That was not it.
How far did the white people live that she worked for? I mean, like I say, they were a town over, and she had to catch buses to get there. How did How did that make went?
Yeah. She would, in her own words, walk to town. So she would walk to her employer's home. Particularly when she got older, she wasn't driving, she was walking, right? So she would walk 1.5 to 2.5 miles to her employer's home. This is a small town, right?
Yeah.
But still, people are separated.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, that's how
So
she got
she
to
would
work.
walk to town, and let me ask you this, and I use this word because I want to get the effect of it. Have you ever been called a nigger?
Oh yeah, everywhere, everywhere. Let me tell you a story. And this is how prevalent. This is to show how prevalent it is, and it doesn't matter who you are. This is always the reality of being Black, and no matter where you are, you know, anti-Blackness follows you. I was a graduate student at the University of Illinois, and within a week of being there, I was walking across campus one evening, minding my own business, just crossing the street. And as I was crossing the street, a car speeds by and yells, "Nigger, nigger, 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 nigger." I look back like, who are they talking? They can't be talking to me. I just crossed the street.
Yeah.
That was my introduction to Champaign, Illinois. Within a week of moving to Texas Tech University, I again am on a run. I'm a runner. I'm on a run. Ran 7 miles that day. Felt good.
Uh-huh.
And out of nowhere, a pickup truck just speeding by. Nigger, nigger, nigger. I'm like, what did I do? I'm just running. I don't know you from Adam. Did I say something about your mama? What happened? That was my introduction to Lubbock, Texas. Within 3 months of being in Norman, Oklahoma, I am a father now. I am playing with my 3-year-old children at a playground. This is after the election, the 2016 election that Donald Trump won. I want to contest that election now. I don't know if he actually won. I want to contest that one.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if he actually won, Anthony.
Sure.
Let's go back and see the result.
Yeah.
But right after that election, I'm with my children. 2 months, right after the election, I'm with my children on the playground, and a pickup truck of young white men comes like screaming by, nigger, nigger, nigger. And I'm like, I'm with my children. We are playing. And so no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what class position you occupy as a Black person, you can be Barack Obama, or you can be homeless on the street. Anti-Blackness is going to follow you.
Yeah.
And so as I am told often by freedom fighters, Marilyn Looper, the daughter of Clara Looper, who's the mother of the Oklahoma sit-in movement, civil rights movement, because of the prevalence of anti-Blackness in America and in the world, you got to grow some tough skin. You got to get really resilient in this world, or it'll eat you alive, especially when it comes to anti-Blackness and white supremacy.
When you were growing up, did you know your place in life? You knew white people. Did you have a feeling white people were better than Blacks? I'm gonna stay over here, they over there.
Anthony, let me answer
go?
this as the best way I can. Hell no, I didn't think that.
Okay.
I did not think that. I couldn't do what I do if I thought that. My parents did not think that. My grandmother certainly didn't think that. I would be betraying my legacy if that was what I thought. I mean, the only reason why I can stand in front of you and say what I say is because of those people instilling in me that strength, that resilience, that belief in Black people, that love for Black people. I like you have that on the back. I love Black people.
Yeah.
You can't love Black people and think they are inferior.
But okay, we're gonna stay on this just a tad longer then. So when your grandmother worked for them white people, what did she say when she came home? I'm happy I had a good day working for Uncle Charlie. Uncle Charlie is a good boss. Or did she come in and say, I hate Uncle Charlie and I can't wait till I got a better way of life?
She ain't gonna say I hate them. That's one thing she ain't gonna do.
She ain't gonna do that in her own home.
Well, you gotta understand, my grandmother, my grandfather, that generation were faith people, deeply religious, and cursing, hollering.
I got you.
That's just not gonna happen. These are deeply people who live in poverty, but have the highest dignity for themselves and for other people. Like carry oneself as if they were president of United States, but live in poverty, right? And that's where my sort of faith comes from, is sort of seeing how my grandmother, no matter how much money she had in her pocket, she always held herself with deep reverence and dignity. And I try to hold that no matter where I am. Yes. I try to carry myself with the same kind of dignity that she had. even though she lived in poverty her whole life.
Do you know of stories in your community where they may have lynched a guy, or the injustice that they did to Black people, the discrimination that they had in the school system? Are there stories like that that you know?
Oh yes, oh yes. It's too many. That's too much racial violence that happened in the Louisiana Delta, the Mississippi Delta, and the Arkansas Delta, the area that I study in my scholarship, for me to talk about one. But if I am going to talk about one, I would talk about the one that I've studied the closest, and that's the murder of my dear brother Emmett Till, the 14-year-old African American young man who was murdered by two white men in Money, Mississippi, in August 1955 for whistling at a white woman, Carolyn Bryant.
Okay, let me stop you there. It's always a white woman that they cause these massacres. Tulsa is a white woman. You name them. It's always a white. Did he whistle at her? Did he not know that that wasn't the right thing to do? Or was she walking around naked? Why did he whistle at her? You know what I'm saying? Just thinking about it.
Yes. No, Emmett Till was an innocent, sweet boy. He was a fun-loving human being. He was a bright light. And bright black lights that shine bright always draw the ear of white people, and certainly in the 1950s Mississippi. And Emmett Till was a victim of that more than he was a victim of not knowing. But there's a debate about he should have known or he did know, because he grew up in Chicago, and Chicago was rough. Chicago was one of the racist cities today and in the 50s, right? The racial violence of Chicago. And so Till was no stranger to racism or racial violence. This was a part of being Black in Chicago.
Sure.
But Mississippi was different. Mississippi is what Nina Simone says, Mississippi, goddamn.
Right.
Mississippi, goddamn, the racism is so omnipresent and prevalent. It's suffocating. What Till didn't understand is the depth and the intensity of white supremacy in the Delta. This bastion, right, of white supremacy. There's a reason why in the 1940s and 50s, they talked about Mississippi and Georgia as the solid South, because they were saying to the world and to America, it's segregation now and segregation forever. You took slavery away from us, but it's going to be segregation now and segregation forever, right? And so these people had an understanding that this was the world that was and would for always be. And they were going to fight tooth and nail for it. And so that is Nina Simone, Mississippi, goddamn.
Okay, let me ask you this. But before I interrupt and I can cut this out. So he whistles at her. She walking down the street, or what's that dynamic?
The context for Emmett Till being murdered is he and a small group of his family cousins went to the Bryant Meat Market and Grocery in Money, Mississippi, about 4 or 5 days after he arrived in the Delta. When they arrived to the store, Emmett Till originally goes in by himself. They begin to worry that what will this vivacious, energetic, fun-loving little young man do? And so they go in, one of them go in after him, and they make sure he doesn't get into trouble. And he doesn't do anything. He walks in, he gets some candy, they walk out. What happens next, no one can anticipate Carolyn Bryan walks out of the store, the white woman. And when she walks out of the store, Till turns and whistles in her direction. And everyone thought he whistled at her. And the kids know, the kids who live in the Delta know that's a no-no. You don't draw undue attention to a white person. And they scatter. And 3 days later, white men show up to the home where Emmett Till is living, and they kidnap him and they brutally beat him. And only in 2-3 days after that, they find Till's body, precious body, sacred body, young, beautiful black body floating in the Tallahatchie River. And his murder sparked the civil rights movement.
Yeah. Have you ever done anything off to the edge when you were growing up, off to the edge, that you know that if that this, you know what I'm saying? Have you ever had an Emmett Till moment? Have you ever thought to yourself, I'm gonna throw a rock at a white kid? You know, I don't care what it was that you did, and it's you beyond the statute of limitations now, so you ain't got to worry about that.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, have you ever had that kind of venom in your heart to do something?
I think we all do, brother. I think we all do. I mean, that is the great strength of our people, is after 400 years of oppression, unrelenting oppression, we have maintained our sanity. We've maintained our dignity. We are resilient even in the face of continuing oppression and repression. Throughout our experience, whether we're talking about the Black Panther Party, or we're talking about Black Power organizations who said enough with us shuck it and jive. And these are their words, not mine. Enough of us pandering to white people. We are going to be black and strong. We're going to meet force with force. We're going to defend ourselves at minimum. That is a strong current in our experience. But at the same time, I think the deeper and longer lasting one has been the strength to keep on keeping on, the strength to keep the faith, the strength to keep believing in our sacredness, is why we have remained as steadfast, as strong. A weaker, lesser people would not be here. We're still here.
When you talked about your grandparents being deeply religious, in church, yes, on Sunday, what did the pastor say? The pastor said that God is going to take us and he's going to stop these people from hating us. God is going to get some of them for hating us so bad and treating us wrong. Or we just going to figure out a way to turn the other cheek and deal with it. What would the pastor say on Sunday?
The my pastor at St. Matthew's Baptist Church of Marouge, Louisiana, was a righteous pastor, right? He was a restorative justice pastor. All he talked about was God's justice, visiting God's justice on the world. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
You know, that God is a watchful God, and that he sees what is happening to his children, and he's not going to let his children wander too long in the wilderness, right? He comes from this sense of a caretaking God, like a God who sees the injustice that is happening to his children, and that God is just, that God is merciful, that God will ultimately lift up and elevate his children, his people. That is what I mean. That even in the great suffering of the Black experience, right, keep the faith, right? That God, like, this is coming from a deep Christian, Judeo-Christian point of view of God will make a way, right? We ain't trusting in white people ever.
Okay.
We can't even trust in ourselves, but we can trust that God will make a way, right? And that God sees, and the restorative justice part is God sees the injustice happening to Black people. And because he sees the injustice happening to Black people, he's going to make it right. Keep the faith. And so that is very much the tradition, the Black Baptist tradition of faith that I grew up in. And in so many ways, you know, my fondest memories of growing up revolve around being with my grandmother, sitting on that front pew, you know, where you could not escape.
Yeah.
Her dressed in her most beautiful clothing. And this is what I'm talking about, the dignity.
I got you.
Every day she didn't look that way, right? But on Sunday.
How long did church last? What time did church start? What time did you get out?
Oh my God, you don't want to know, Anthony. You don't want to know. You really don't want to know. Church started at 7 in the morning.
Okay.
The reason why it started at 7 in the morning is because grandma had a process that started at 7 in the morning.
Okay. Okay.
Getting ready for church.
Okay.
Right. She had, you know, I mean, it was a process, right? She had to get her hats right. She had to iron everything. I mean, everything had to be just so.
Right.
And once she got herself ready, she had to get her children ready. So
right.
They had to get their clothes ironed, and they had to, you know, be pressed. You know, everybody had to take a bath. I mean, it was a process.
I got you.
3-hour process to get ready for church. Some 7 to 10. Church, we get to church at 10:30, sitting in the front pew. We are not done till 2 o'clock.
Wow.
Because we're gonna be at church till 12:30. We're gonna talk to the pastor and everybody for a half hour. And then we're gonna eat at the church. We're gonna eat lunch at the church. And it's gonna be 3 o'clock before we home because we just gonna linger. And so the church, when people say church take up a lot of space, that's what they talk. It starts at 7 or sometimes 6.
Yeah.
It goes all because everything on Sunday revolved around the church in rural Louisiana.
Yeah.
Now, and I spend so much time at church that I carry church with me everywhere I go. I don't need.
I love it.
I'm with it.
So now let me ask you this. So now you in church, and what did they feed you? Was it fried chicken?
Soul food. Soul food. Fried chicken, fried fish, fried everything, fried okra. We were gonna have greens. We were gonna. I mean, part of my journey is, you know, discovering vegetarianism. Like I love soul food.
Yeah.
And I love to eat it every day if I could.
Yeah.
But when my mother, because of that diet, and my grandmother, because of that diet, have had heart disease and ultimately passed away because of that heart disease. And my mother had a severe stroke because of that diet. I saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And I became a vegetarian and kind of embraced sort of running because I saw, you know, I saw how it has just devastated my family. And the great thing about soul food today is there's this younger generation that's making this healthy, vegan, vegetarian, soul food. So you don't got no excuse these days to not eat well. But you know, that's how I grew up.
What let me ask you this. And I mean no disrespect in this way. What does it mean to be poor in the Delta? When you were poor, if you were poor, did you where did you get your clothes? Did you go to the store? Did you have money for lunch? Could
Mm.
you go out on Friday, with
Yeah.
your buddies and you had
Let me,
$2 and $2
let,
would get you a corn dog? What does that
Anthony,
mean?
let me tell you something. And let me put it as simply as I can. My grandmother owned very little. And when I say very little, I'm talking about down to the things that most people take for granted today, like a car. Like people take for granted owning a car. No, no,
Yeah.
no. My grandmother owned very little. My grandmother had very little money, but she never went without, and she always had money. She didn't own anything, virtually very little.
Oh, hold on. No, you talked about
Made
the
very
dresses
little
and the
money.
hats and the clothes. She had good clothes.
But let
But did
me
she?
let me explain
Yeah,
to you,
yeah, yeah,
brother.
yeah,
Let
yeah,
me
yeah, yeah,
explain
yeah,
to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
She made very little money. She made very little money. You didn't make a lot of money as working as a domestic in rural Louisiana, but she always had money because she saved her money. Every dime she got, she saved, and she only spent when she had to spend. There was no, there was no, capricious spending. Right? Money was a resource. You used it. You held on to it. You put it away. And so she didn't own anything. She made very little, but she never lacked because she saved everything. She could give you $100. You'd be like, where did $100 come from?
I
She
got you.
always had money, no matter, and I still to this day don't know how she always had money. She did not play with money. Money was a sacred resource,
Did you have
and
money when you were growing up? How did you get? I mean, did you do a side little job cutting grass or?
it's no way that I couldn't have worked with my grandmother working the way she did. You know what I mean?
Okay.
She was working in her late 60s into her 70s as a domestic, right? Having, having back issues. I mean, all the issues. Still doing that backbreaking work. And that's the strength of our people. That's also the oppression and the anti-blackness of the Mississippi Delta. Um,
But again,
yeah,
what did you do for a hustle to make some money? Could you be a paper
I
boy, anything like that?
my first job was working for my aunt, my grandmother's daughter, um, working for her at McDonald's. My grandmother's daughter, Sharon Winston, she was a store manager of three McDonald's in Mississippi, and I traveled to Mississippi every summer, similar to Emmett Till, um, to spend the summer with family. And during the summers, I would work at McDonald's for her. I would do from age 13 or 14 till I was 18. I worked as a janitor for her in the summers at McDonald's.
Did you ever have a moment where your life was in danger because of white people? You were in the wrong place. Some white guys kind of cornered you in the alley. You were walking down the street a little too late. Did that ever happen to you?
Um, no, honestly, the most racist things that happened to me after I left Louisiana.
Okay. Okay. So okay.
Um,
Yeah.
I was I lived in a protected black community. I did not spend time with white people. I just didn't. I mean, it
Okay.
just didn't happen. Um, Even in the 1980s, 90s, I was within a loving, protective black community. When I wasn't at my grandmother's, I was at a place, and you're gonna laugh at this, Anthony.
Okay.
But I was at a place called the Hilltop. The Hilltop. That's what it was called. That's what we called it, because all of my father's side of the family, and I'm talking about generations of them, lived in a 1 mile area of each other. And the biggest homes there in were the hill homes.
Okay.
And so we spent time when I wasn't at Grandma Two Sweet. That's what we called a Grandma Two Sweet. When I wasn't there, I was on the hilltop. And that was one of the most protective, loving Black communities that a young child can grow up in. And so, I just didn't, there was no casual, I see a white person. It just didn't happen, right? White people live way somewhere else. And there was the Black community.
Who owned the
And
who
that
owned the
was,
grocery store? The white guy?
or a corporation,
Yeah, yeah,
certainly there are very few significant Black businesses where I grew up.
yeah.
So yeah.
When we talk about who owned the community, um, the party store was Black owned, I'm sure, right? The little small party store, they had little pops and chips and stuff like. You maybe had one of those, uh,
Yeah.
had one or two of those there. And then the other question that comes to mind is that, and you have this because of your northern experience. People say that they like the South better because they know where white people stand. Is there some truth to that, or compared to
Yeah.
being in the North and they're racist and they don't tell you they're racist? In the South, they say I'm a racist, and so now we know where I'm at.
Yeah.
What does that do
I
for
mean,
you? Yes.
I I think today white people, Southerners, are very conscious of that R word being called a racist. And so the cavalierness of white supremacy of the past, that for the most part is gone, with the exception of the Klan, but increasingly with Trump,
Yeah,
the white nationalists who are
yeah,
also deeply racist,
yes,
or louder. But just talking about white Southerners, like as a
yeah,
group, what I experience is more subtlety than out in your face
yeah,
racism.
yeah.
What I experienced, with white teachers were lower expectations. And what I
Oh,
experienced, like
really?
with white kids had no problem calling you a nigger, on the playground. Like but a white person would not, in your face like that. And so
Yeah.
there's these subtleties of the way in which I remember childhood. There were subtleties to racism that are similar to, say, growing up in the North. And that's why I say, in so many ways, the most racist experiences that I've had, the most overtly racist experiences that I've had, have been the ones that I mentioned to you.
Yeah, right. When uh let me see. My other question, and I know because of timing we coming to a close, so to speak. How about this? Did your did your grandparents, grandmother, your mother see you graduate with your doctorate, and then how much of a happy moment for a guy like you to come through what you've come through, to reach that height? What was that, a big dinner back on the pot? What? Yeah. How did that go? If you don't mind.
I want to answer that first part. What does it mean? And then I'll tell you what we did, or what I did. Um, it means everything, Anthony. Um, and believe you believe me when I say this, every class I teach, every time I'm in front of my computer, every time I'm on the lecture, every time I'm on the stage giving a keynote address, my grandmother is with me, right? She is right there with me. Her voice is what gives me the strength. She speaks into me a lot of these stories, the significance of these stories. So she's with me everywhere I go. And so it feels amazing to be bringing her along this journey, being able, and I know she's watching, being able to see, me talk about her experience, our people's experience. I know she's proud, right? Because I'm carrying her with me. In terms of what we did,
did she see it? Was she alive when you graduated? How far?
that's why I say I'm carrying her
Yeah,
with
but
me.
what about in college? Was she in college? How
So
old was when she died? Yeah.
my grandmother passed away when I was 17 years old.
Okay.
So she didn't see me graduate high school. I graduated from Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts, a college prep academy. She didn't see me graduate from there. She didn't see me go to McAllister College, a liberal arts college in Minnesota. She didn't see me graduate from University of Illinois with my PhD in history. She didn't see that physically,
Yeah, I
but
got
I've
you.
carried her with me this whole time. And now my grandmother is literally on stage with me when I'm talking. Like I'm introducing her on stage. That's how deeply she lives with me. Every time I give a lecture, I reference her because of the strength of her witness. So most definitely, my dear brother, it means everything, right? That I came from there, right? Because her story, my grandmother's story, is a story of resilience, not resistance, resilience. Um, she was deeply Christian. She was going to turn the other cheek. She was going to keep the faith, as Pastor said, right? But in all of it, she was going to, her main form of resistance was the ways in which she comported herself, the dignity with which she comported herself, right? The ways in which white people had such low expectations and just only scorn for Black people when Black people could hold themselves in deep pride and dignity, right? That was so powerful, right? Because what anti-Blackness ultimately is about is denying your humanity, right? And what Black people clung to was their dignity and humanity. That was the most potent way that my grandmother was able to fight anti-Blackness and white supremacy. And I try to follow her witness and do the same.
I got a question that come to mind, and I'm gonna take liberty only in this regard, and I don't mean nothing. And I don't know. This might be the last one, so to speak. There was somebody who said something to you in grade school that you could not do this. You could not reach these heights. You know who they are. Would you have wanted to go back and say, "Look at this," and
No.
slap that PhD dissertation thing in
Oh,
front of them and say, "Don't you ever tell another Black kid what they can't do," or you know what I mean?
yeah.
Respond to that if you could. Not with Venom. I'm sure you wouldn't do. Maybe you would want to do with Venom. I don't know. That's your call. How would that go?
Brother Anthony,
Yeah.
depending on the day, it might be venomous or it might be done with love. But today, it would be done with love because, um, you know, I tell myself today this. This is what strengthens me in the witness of my grandmother. Every time something bad happens to me, I'm gonna take that as an opportunity to strengthen myself. I'm going to take it as an opportunity to be more resilient than I was the day before. So I've just sort of absorbed this kind of mindset where, and this is very much my grandmother, it's going to be all right. We gonna get through this. And so that strength, that is a part of my experience connected to my family, my grandmother most especially. I was raised in that, reared in that. I'm not here because I am somebody. I'm here because I was connected to those somebodies who breathe life and strength into me. And I've had the good sense to absorb most of it. I haven't absorbed all of it.
I got you. That's the
But
beautiful
the
thing.
good
Yeah,
sense
yeah.
to absorb most of it and to hold on to it. And so my strength is rooted in my family strength, rooted in my people's strength. I just have the good sense to know that's what it is, and just to keep mining it, keep going back to it, and that's for me, why I can stand up straight, look people in the eye, and tell them my people's story, because I know.
When you well, okay, lastly, what do you want people to get out of this? When you lecture, when you in the classroom and you in
Yeah.
front of them students and you close your eyes and you said, Lord, thank you for letting me be here. And now you're going to tell some of these stories that many of them might not have a positive slant to them until you
Yes, sir.
slant it positively.
Yes.
Or if you got a story that don't have a positive slant and you slant it positive, what do you want them students to get? That you
I got
tell them, and them white racist students or something like that.
Yeah.
What do you say? Hey, what do you want them to get?
Two things. One, I gotta just provide some context. The classroom is a transformative space. You go into the classroom to be transformed by knowledge. But for me, I want the classroom to be a transformative space in terms of students, not just not just them understanding Black history. I want them to care about Black people and love Black people as a result of learning the history. And so I'm trying to transform students' attitudes and feelings toward the past, not just their knowledge. And so if I can get students to care and love Black people, Black students to love themselves, and other students to care about Black history and to love Black people, the classroom has been a transformative space, to the extent that we go into there with a prearranged set of learning objectives. You need to know this, and this. They will learn a lot. Their knowledge will grow, but they won't be transformed. I think people are truly transformed when they care about something. And so I try to get my students to deeply care about the people, not just the history, the people connected and affected by the history. And so my classroom is a classroom, that I try to ever expand students' sense of compassion, ever expand students' sense of other groups' humanity, right? And so that's where I am, my dear brother. And
Okay,
I can
brother.
talk to you
Yeah,
all
yeah.
day.
We got to come back. Let me ask you one more thing. Now you've written a book or something, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't have it with you though to show us.
I usually do have a copy. I can't keep my books because I give them all away.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
I
But
think
what's the
I
name of
don't
the
have
book?
any with me.
What's the name of it?
The most recent book that I wrote is Beyond the Rope. Or excuse me, is the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, a photographic history.
Okay.
And so it's a book about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, that, you know, it's the best thing that I've ever written. It's the best thing that I've ever done. And I'm proud of the book, not because, it's a book and I wrote it. I'm proud of it because I know I could have only written that by really investing in the community and getting to know the story of what happened from the vantage point of the community. Taking time to do that is how that book came about. And like I said, it's the best thing that I've ever done as a scholar. And just definitely I'll send you a link to it. After the show.
Yeah, and the book is available on Amazon and that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll put all that. Do you have a website that people can follow you at?
Yes, I do. CarlosKhill.com. CarlosKhill.com.
All right. We're gonna put all that in the description.
Yes,
is there how about this? One more to close out. In the words of your grandmother, is there a prayer that she would recite that would close us out today? Or one that you got?
You didn't put me on the spot, Anthony. I can't recite it right now, but she would always say the Lord's Prayer.
Okay.
We would say that before every meal, and I mean it. You pick up your fork, you get your hand broke. But before saying the Lord's Prayer, you could be eating a Rice Krispie treat. You better say something. You better say thank you, Lord, for this Rice Krispie treat.
Yeah.
Because she didn't play. She didn't. But this is the, God is gonna make a way. Show respect. And so she would end with the Lord's Prayer, but I would just, I've become so secular. Don't go to church, although I carry it with me everywhere. But I just say anymore, I just say keep the faith. Keep the faith.
I love it. Everybody, this is what I do with Strong Inspirations.
Hey.
I find the passionate folk.
Hey.
Somehow, I don't even know how I came across him. I might have sent your college email somehow.
No, I think you saw my website and you sent me an email through my website.
Is that what happened? Okay.
Yes, sir.
But people, I'm working hard to find the folk who got
finding the folk.
You finding the folk, and I got a folk right here. If there was a love button, you would hit it.
Hey.
If there was and all you ain't gotta do is hit like. But if there was a love button, you would hit it on this brother right here.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And,
I love you, brother.
And I said it. You got an open door policy here at Strong Inspiration. We're gonna have it because we got to talk more deeper on the books and the things like that. And so we'll do it anytime you want to. I'm good with that one. Like I say, everybody hit the subscribe button, hit the like button because there is no love button. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. You get a ding, you get a shock, you get a smoke signal. Your lights in your house flicker on and off.
Too much.
You might get a kiss from the wife get a kiss from the husband, something to let you know that Strong Inspiration is at you once again. Tell somebody about it. Don't keep this to yourself. A couple more things. Everybody, I'll admit this, and every now and then I say it. Watching Strong Inspirations is free. So if you'd like to send us a love donation, we will gladly accept it. Gas is high and so on and so forth. And so do that. Just go to my website, businessintheblack.net. There's a under Strong Inspiration, there's a button for that if you'd like to see fit. Get my book. Let's get his book. Let's follow him. Let's keep lifting him up in prayer.
Thank you.
Because he's doing God's work, everybody. He came out of that situation. And he's doing God's work on a big level.
Hey, thank you, sir.
And he's changing minds. This is your ministry, man.
Thank you, brother.
This is your ministry.
Thank you.
So
I received it.
With that, I'll say, and I mean this from the bottom and the top of my heart, I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind, keep doing this, with all your days as you see fit.
Brother Brogdon, I'm Rick Rossing it right now. Every
Yes,
day
sir.
I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
There you go. There you go.
I'm Rick Rossing.
With good intent too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With good intent.
I love you.
Yeah,
and thank you for having me.
Thank you, brother.
All righty.
Everybody, bye-bye. We out.
You take care.
Yeah. Till we can do it again.
Yes, sir.